Mohammed Dauda.
Mohammed Dauda, Accra Technical University.
Okay.
Right, basically.
Okay, so what would you be reading today?
From my book titled Chateau.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm also from Moisa. I don't know if I actually graduated from Moisa, so I can't.
Maybe from the previous year.
Yeah. It was a 2019 year.
Yeah, so you are a senior.
Yes, exactly.
So what will you be reading today?
I'll be reading from The Men from Staywell, but maybe I should mention that I also won an award recently from the Economic Commission of Africa, Climate Fiction. So I had to drop it. I just have to drop it there. So
that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah. Some small applause.
Okay, so I would like for you to tell me a little bit about the Writers Marathon. Anyone would like to?
All right, so the Writers Marathon is a project that was put together by the Mensa Press. Mensa Press is an organization that sees to the production and then the promotion of Ghanaian writing. So during the COVID era, Prince Mensa decided that he needs to put together the Ghana Writers Marathon, since a lot of people were at home, so they could go through an intense and vigorous period of writing to come out with a product after the marathon. And our books today are the products of that marathon.
I see. Anything you would want to add, Dauda?
Basically, it was, as he said, it was a 6-month intensive program, which we all had to undertake. I was within the playwright department. He was in the prose, same as my brother over here.
Okay.
So basically, it was an engaging one. It wasn't easy, I must say, but then we are all seeing the fruit of it, which happens to be the books before us.
Okay.
Amazing books, I must say.
Yeah. Okay.
And when you had the people like Hemingway and Fitzgerald writing their books, they were drinking coffee and vermouth in the Paris, cafes, and yelling at each other probably and bouncing off ideas. So I think the Writers Marathon is in some way supposed to recreate that idea, but using more of a digital platform, WhatsApp, where we can use as an echo chamber to bounce off our ideas and support each other. So maybe not a lot of drinking of coffee, but
that's interesting. All right. Can you tell me how you got into writing? Yes, you, Ekow.
So my story with writing was that I always, doodled in my classes. I have these small comic strips on my notebooks, and that evolved into general storytelling. However, the real time where I decided I'm going to write is when Black Panther came out. And for me, I've not watched Black Panther, and I won't watch Black Panther.
Why?
Because for me, it's the highest level of tokenism that can ever be performed in the world.
Could you please explain what you mean by that?
So tokenism is basically that, we are going to take this thing that is black and push it out there to show that, blacks too are among us and they too can aspire to a certain life.
Okay.
So Hollywood, which is a white male-dominated place, was building off of the momentum of the Black Lives Matter campaign and all that movement that was happening in the US, and used this Black Panther movie to push their agenda and make it seem like the liberation is going to happen if you watch this movie. So this is what the tokenism is about. They made money off of this movement, which I don't believe in at all. So after that, I was like, you know what? I want to write my stories, and I want our people to make money from our stories. I don't want it to end up in some white man's pocket at the end of the day. So that's what really got me back into writing. And yeah.
I see. Dauda.
For me, I kind of stammer. I stammer a lot.
Okay.
So instead of me talking, I would rather write it down. So that was where it started from. So I used to write a lot because I stammer. So along the line, I found love in it, which even made me to pursue general arts in Presec Legon. So over there, I did literature as a course, and I found much more love in poetry, in playwriting. So for me, I merged the two, as in poetry and then playwriting. I merged the two so that I can at least communicate whatever I want to get to my audience. So basically, it started because I was a stammerer. That was how it started. So
that's an interesting origin story. All right, Kofi.
What got me into writing? Yesterday I was in a workshop. I think you were in the workshop
Yes,
too.
I was.
And the facilitator asked us, what makes us write? I was reluctant to answer because my answer may be seen as silly. What gets me to write is because I want to sleep.
Interesting.
And once a story pops into my head, I can't rest until I put the story down. So if the story pops into my head, the only way I can rest is write it down. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just need to write it down. And once I write it down, I'm able to sleep and rest. Yeah, I can be watching a movie and then all of a sudden the voice I'm hearing in my head is write yours. Write yours. So if a story pops into my head, I will write it down so I can rest. That's what got me into writing.
As simple as that.
Simple as that.
Thank you very much. Okay, Ekow, give me a brief synopsis of your story.
Okay, so it is set 10 years from now.
Okay.
So we're about to go into the 2032 presidential elections. This young man, mixed race man, is coming back to Ghana on an assignment. So on the surface, he works for a cybersecurity company.
Okay.
And he's on assignment to set up a system for a family. Now, under the surface, the family is very connected to the incumbent government and connected to their corruption scandal. So what he is actually meant to do is to spy on them and to unravel the cash flows between them and the incumbent government to expose it.
Okay.
And this is being forced upon by a third party that's going to come and usurp power from the NDC and the MPP and take over. So they are coming aggressively. They're coming to expose the corruption and their main business. So
would you call it a political thriller or any?
You read it and decide what you want to call it.
Interesting. All right. So, Mohammed Dauda.
Right. So basically, my main character within this play is called Agritando. So he's one out of the 9 children of the king called Omanhene Amono Tando. That's his name. So he's a stern traditionalist king of Anomabo. He defies all the orders of his father and does all he can to help slaves within his kingdom. Through that, due to the cause that he took, it made the people around begin to turn against him because everybody is for slavery. We are all buying slaves. How come you, the son of the king, who is even supposed to support the cause, you are the one who is turning against us to fight us? So basically, it's a fight against slavery. But along the line, he develops other skills as well. He wishes to become a musician. And you know, back then, royals are not allowed to go into music because they feel that this one is for drunkards. These people who don't really have much to do are those that pursue music. They sit under the coconut tree to just drink and then sing and then pass the day away. So basically, he also wishes to become a musician, and this also becomes a problem, which even forces his father to even disown him, pushing him out of the kingdom.
Interesting.
So, very good. So basically, that is that. And along the line to it gets serious, where he now falls in love with a slave. He's now falling in love with a slave. So it becomes an issue. So basically, this is what it's about slavery, how a prince is going to stand for the slaves. So basically, that is that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Kofi?
For the synopsis, I would like to read the blurb of the story. So, when Selassie and other abnormals are freed from their imprisonment in the facility, her life spirals out of control. She must navigate through an alien environment that brims with strange and powerful forces. These forces have one mission: to see Selassie and her kind dead. With assistance from a traditional priest, she realizes that she has a mission to change the world. Together with her friends Adobia, Elekem, and Esinu, she begins a journey of self-discovery that is frightening and exhilarating at the same time.
Thank you very much, Kofi.
Thank
you very much, all of you. So now we are going to be doing some readings.
Okay.
But before that, what do you think is the main thrust or the selling point of your story? I'll start it from you.
Hey,
Yes. The two yes, also.
I think the main thrust is to see this future Ghana and to see that the problems that we have today have just become more to a higher degree
Like,
in terms of the inequality, in terms of the separation, the chasm between the have and the have-nots.
okay.
And how technology does not promise that that will be made better. It actually promises that it will be made worse.
I see.
So this, I would say, was one of the main things that's,
Pushes the story
yeah,
forward.
pushes the story.
All right.
And
Thank you.
also, kind of, what does it mean to be Ghanaian in this new or emerging landscape? So that as well. What
I
does it
see.
mean to be Ghanaian in this new world?
It's an answer to an existential question about Ghanaianness.
Well, maybe more questions than less than
More
answers.
questions than answers.
More questions
All right.
than answers.
Okay. Dauda.
So basically, mine would be fighting discrimination amongst ourselves before trying to make it a bigger picture. Because every day in and day out, you say that the whites, the British, are discriminating against us. When in actual sense, we as people also discriminate against amongst we ourselves. So for us to be able to fight a bigger picture, there's a need to fight what we have down here to take away any form of discrimination. Then we can face the world out there. So basically, that would be the point I would want to highlight on.
Okay. All right. Kofi.
The title of my book, Ajay, means witchcraft in Ewe. And there aren't many books on the market today that explores Ghanaian culture in other areas like a blend of science fiction and magical realism with a bit of fantasy. So this book explores the other, the unseen of Ghanaian culture, and that is the
selling point.
Selling point of this
All right.
book.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we will make them read some portions of their books, and so Dauda, start. It's a marathon. So.
Right. So for the purpose of my book being a play, I would want to read with my colleagues here.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine.
So you can pick up.
Exciting. You want us to act as well,
I think I'll just.
What page?
I mean, I wouldn't join, but I'll just be reading along. And please,
Right, so
okay. While they read, please pay attention because I'll be asking questions. And I'll be mentioning names, the ones I know. So, yeah, beware. Okay.
Right, so we'll be taking our reading from Act 2, Scene 4, page 61 of my book. Act 2, Scene 4, at the riverside. So probably you can take the parenthesis for me.
All right. Scene opens to reveal Agre seated underneath a tree by the riverside, testing the strings of his guitar. Adia Pena walks in.
So I'll take that, Pena.
Okay.
I knew I would find you over here. So you take the Agre.
Am I that easy to predict?
Aside here, where else do you have to go?
Sure. I have other places to be. I just have a lot on my mind, and this is the only place I am able to find solace with my thoughts.
What's bothering you?
It breaks my heart to see these slaves suffer. I wish I had the ability to change their destiny. I wish I could unite them with their family. I wish I could be any tougher to restore their stripped-off happiness. Here I am, unable to do much, making me feel worthless. Sadly, the world is silent as though under duress. They simply careless. How do I defeat the system?
There is only one way to defeat the system.
And that is?
You have to conquer the fear you've harbored within you.
You think that will work?
I know that will work.
If the oppressors chose not to
That's
repent.
mine.
Okay, sorry.
If the oppressors choose not to repent, do not relent. Until every chain is broken and every soul set free, do not flee. Be firm and fight for what you believe in.
You are full of wisdom.
Wisdom comes from the Most High. All I did was to nurture it.
Thank you very much. I must confess, you've really inspired me to do more. I feel much better.
I'm glad you are. I will always be here to give you my unflinching support.
3 young ladies walk in carrying pots. They smile and wave at Agri as they pass by. Agri smiles and waves back at them. They exeunt.
See how the young maidens are all over you. They cannot have enough of you.
They are just being kind.
Being kind, you say?
Yes. What else have I to say?
Your showmanship during the festival has been on the lips of so many people. You are just too much. I can't believe my one and only friend has become this popular.
It was nothing.
Learn to take compliment.
Yes, madam. Well, there is something I have been yearning to tell you.
Dema,
I have for a while been searching for a woman to marry. I finally found someone, but the problem is my father might not permit me to marry her.
wow, you found a woman and you are now telling me?
I was just waiting for the right time to tell you.
I'm not offended, okay? I'm happy for you all the same. As for your father, I think you should be the man that you are. Sit your father down and talk to him. I'm hopeful that he would accept the woman of your choice.
Thanks for the advice. I will do exactly that.
Agree.
Okay.
Okay, agree. Do you love her a lot?
Yes, I do. With all my heart, body and soul.
Can you live without her?
I would not even imagine living without her. I would probably die. In her, I find love. A love so good to be true. I know she loves me just as I do. She is all I will ever need. She is the energy that makes my heart beat, the soul to my mate, the light to my darkness, the joy to my world. At my lowest point, her thoughts uplifts me.
Wow,
God
my friend,
damn it.
you are in love.
I indeed am.
What's her name? Come on, just tell me her name.
Adiepena.
Yes.
I am not calling you. Rather, the name of the woman I am in love with is Adiepena.
Aside me, who else is called Adiepena?
No one else.
Does that mean you, me, huh?
Thank you very much for this scene. Okay, so I warned you that I'll be asking questions. Would any of you want to give your impressions of what you just listened to? Anybody? After 3 seconds, I'll just mention a name.
Yes, hand up.
I mean, I'd have mentioned your name anyway, so.
Hi. So, first of all, I want to say congratulations to you guys for. I'm part of this year's marathon, so I know that how strenuous it is. Yeah. I like the fact that, like, playwriting is something that I am in deep respect of because it's I think personally, it's one of the harder forms of writing. It is it's hard to. You don't have a lot to work with. All you have is dialogue, essentially. And so I like in this reading, I'm able to see who the characters are through the dialogue, and I really appreciate that. And I think that that was impressive. That was the part that stood out to me in the reading.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Anyone else? Kwekutre. Anyway, do you have anything to say? Okay. Yeah, you could ask a question, yes.
Yeah, it was interesting how you had the character who was more like the learner and you had the character who was very wise. And I was wondering if these represented different sides of yourself for you in your process of writing and imagining this story, or maybe you at different points in your life?
Please, it's Mike.
Yes, basically everything that you said, they represent the different shades of me. So yeah, basically that.
All right. Do you have anything to add to the story? Like anything that you were trying to, were you trying to make something with this particular scene? What was the idea?
Oh yes. So the idea basically was to try to bring two people who are in love with each other, although they do not want to affirm to the fact that they are in love with each other. They are always trying to play games around themselves. Eventually, nature brings them at one particular point where they have no choice than to tell each other how much they love each other, basically. So in this regard, they are going to forcefully tell themselves that, hey, I love you too. What are we going to do next to ensure that this love that we have blossom as best as possible? So yeah.
Well, that's interesting. That's very beautiful as well. What I liked particularly about this scene was how you managed the irony, because the guy is talking about the woman that he loves to the woman that he loves, and then she has no idea all this while, and she's supposed to be the wise one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting thing that you handled there. So that's what I saw, and I loved it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh yeah, you can ask questions, please.
So my question also, earlier I said I had a deep respect for playwriting. It's something I'm greatly afraid of. So what do you do as a playwright? Since it's so dialogue heavy, what do you do when you have a character who doesn't have anything to say? Like you can't so essentially you have a block, but you have a character. It's character specific. You understand? So how do you overcome that?
So the block, is it with me, the writer, or the character within the play?
I like to think that sometimes you have a character in your head, right? And there's something that needs to be said, but you just don't know how the character will go about it. Is that something you've experienced, and how did you overcome it? That's the question I'm asking.
I sleep, wake up, and then I pick it up from there. Yeah.
Also rest.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you for that question, Fui. All right. Any other questions? Any other impressions? Nothing? All right, so we go on to the next reading. So I would, by random, choose Ekow. Yeah, so you read yours, and then you go from there.
Okay. I'll be reading from chapter 2.
Okay.
The traffic had started to loosen as Zach watched the flat and scattered buildings of the outer city make way to the rising, clustered, skybound blocks of the city center. Shining imperiously, these buildings stood shoulder to shoulder, confident.
Wait, I'm sorry. Please slow down.
Okay.
So that we can follow.
Okay.
You are following?
Yeah, they're following.
I'm sorry. Okay, please, keep your pace.
I'll start again.
All right.
The traffic has started to loosen as Zach watched the flats and scattered buildings of the outer city make way to the rising, clustered, skybound blocks of the city center. Shining imperiously, these buildings stood shoulder to shoulder, confident in knowing that they belonged in this elite space, the center of New Accra. But on the street level, where there had been a cluttered dynamism of the streets before, there was now a casual order that dominated. Zach was now able to watch as the street vendors set up for the day's commerce. Some packed their assortments of fruits onto furnished shelves, others scooping large helpings of porridge and cocoa into pre-ordered packs. The density of hawkers drastically reduced. The patrolling of police increased. The odd Luajia tricycle, a remnant of the informality of yesteryears, rolling on by on the broad sidewalks. Heaps of coconuts stacked in buckets, waiting to be cracked. Litter in the bins, pedestrians in office wear, sand canopies above to block the harshness of the sun, sparse but uniform blocks of vegetation, neat and well trimmed. Then the advertising. A kaleidoscope of colors, a blur of taglines, peering in from every possible corner. Zach's Uber van was approaching a major traffic light when it drew to a halt in front of a police barrier. The policeman carried his rounded stomach to the car, tapping on the driver's window with his musky AK-47. Where did they go? The policeman demanded. Officer, this is the Uber van. Every bro for this car get their identity cards. But you go feel look at them and see that they all no need the identity card self. The Uber driver responded. I see. White man. He was pointing the muzzle at Zach. Where are you from? I'm from Ghana. Zach answered. I beg you, master. Please, where are you from? This one, the Ghana that day inside you will be very small. Zach just smiled and nodded to the policeman, who eyed the rest of the occupants. Driver, tell your passengers that it no be easy doing this patrol. Things will happen for the streets inside. We make lucky and no come this side of town. 2 police officers have died, and many are wounded. So I beg, make them give something where we for, something small for our work. Zach could see the driver looking uneasily over his shoulder. He must have been thinking that he would have to give the policeman money himself. The other passengers were clueless to what the policeman was asking for. But Zach knew. He reached into his pockets and drew out a purple 20 Ghana cedi note, handing it over to the policeman. The policeman looked at Zach after receiving the note and chuckled. This thing be peanuts. Baby, your life will they protect. At this point, the driver had had enough. He kissed his teeth and drove off past the barrier and onward to the city main to the first drop-off. Zach had heard and seen and felt the unease that was spreading over Accra like an itch. There had been a serious spike in crime rates since the protests against the high food prices began some 3 months ago. Not just petty crimes, but violent ones as well, targeted at higher income groups. Everywhere he had gone in Accra, the places that weren't walled up at least, balled with the same palpable tension. The trust that had existed before between people, the trust that Zach had known as a teenager growing up in the city, was gone. In its place, an uncertainty was rumbling. No one felt safe. No one knew for sure the other person's intentions.
Thank you very much. Wow. Very vivid description of Accra in 2035, right?
2031, yeah.
Yeah, I'm already 4 years ahead. Anyway, so questions or impressions. What did you think of what you just heard? Mm-hmm.
Your descriptions. I feel like you saw these things as pictures first, then you wrote them down. They read like that, they sound like that, they almost give you you could almost paint a picture out of what you're saying. If you told the painter these things, they could actually paint you a scene. So did that happen? What was the writing process? Did you see it, then write it down?
I mean, so a lot of this work involves not only imagining the future, but also taking in what's happening now. And Margaret Atwood, who is also someone who writes dystopia, her futures are never based on something that is not there. It is something that's happening already in the present. So it wasn't so out of the ordinary for me to see this world. Maybe what was out of the ordinary was put certain elements in place for it to work as it did in the story. So that's on one hand. The other hand is being able to describe it. And that comes from reading other people's works and how they go about world building. Because you have to kind of fool the person who is reading the book that this world exists and they are in that world, even though it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, that's kind of how I went about it and some of the things that go into it. Yeah.
I was about to interrupt you, sorry.
No.
Fantastic reading. So do I have a question? I want to say, my thoughts on what you've read is that I like how the world, like you speak about skyscrapers, there's an Uber van, there's also a lack of food and in consequence, jacking of prices. So you know that, okay, things are progressing in society in a good way and in a bad way at the same time. But my thing is, I think I really greatly appreciate the character of the policeman, because to me, he was like you were speaking to the human condition, that, okay, police people are supposed to be protecting the people from the current crime spikes, but there's still that greed. Nothing has changed. Like, okay, we are protecting you, so give us money. Even though they're out here earning a living, like they are doing this to earn a living. So I really appreciated that, like, commentary on the human condition, that greed aspect. I thought that was brilliantly put.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we hope that in the future that the police will be paid so they don't have to be greedy. But we wait to see. Well, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciated your comment that the writing felt vivid, like a painting, because I absolutely felt that. But I also felt you making pictures of these very abstract concepts and feelings, which is not an easy thing to do. And they were very relatable feelings, this feeling of uncertainty that you describe at the end. And I was wondering if you can explain, I don't know if it's possible, like how you managed to put that feeling into words that could become pictures.
Well, it is hard to explain, but for me, one of the things we need to all kind of accept as we move into the future is uncertainty. We are all going to live with increased amounts of uncertainty, and we are living in it currently. COVID, you go to the airport, you don't know what thing you need to get onto the plane, if you be allowed into the other side of the country. This is just a snippet of it. So, for me, channeling and bringing that uncertainty and making it real for the reader is one of the main things that I work on as a writer. And yeah, there's different ways to bring that about, whether it's through the description and how the writer or how the character sees the world, how they interpret the world, or how they engage with it through actions, as well. So this is kind of the ways you try and bring that uncertainty or engaging with that uncertainty out. Or sometimes it's working on a subconscious level and they don't even know, but they are just wandering through this cloud and a haze, and they are unsure of where they're going. So I don't know how to say how I channel it, but this is one of the main themes in my writing that I always try and bring out.
Yeah, and just to add on to what you said, it was also interesting for me the contrast or transition from maybe the childhood memories or nostalgia to how things are now. And I felt like that moving through time also contributed to the changing feeling.
Yeah, because we experience the world through our senses, right? So if those senses change and they have an impression on how it will change as well. So yeah.
Please, I want to ask if colorism played a role on the way the policeman viewed the visitor.
Yeah.
Did colorism played a role? And how does it exist in our space? Because we talk about colorism and we think that it's a Western thing. How does it exist in an African setting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am a Ghanaian, but I am always being, questioned about my Ghanaianness on a daily basis. So
misidentified as foreigner.
Yeah, identified as foreigner. And for a large extent, I can't blame people when they do, but I also can't blame myself when I get angry at being asked it as well.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because Ghana is a multicultural, multiracial place historically. Even Osu, which has had a crossbring of Danish, Brazilian. So it's like we have forgotten that we are already multiracial, multicultural. But I don't know why it's become so like, when somebody doesn't look Ghanaian now, it's become an aggressive opposition to it, like, oh, you can't be Ghanaian, I don't know where that has come from,
I think someone has a question right in front of me.
A short one. Is your book a prophecy or speculation?
I beg, it's speculation, eh? It's just speculation for now. If it turns out to be prophecy, then I'll collect it.
Are the questions done? Fui. Okay. And what I found interesting was the biracial element, where the policeman looks at you and says, I mean, not you, Zach. And then he says, where are you from? He says, Ghana. Like, where are you from?
Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting because it's a Ghanaian who would say that kind of from.
Yeah,
Where
where you from?
So
You know, where
that
you
was
really
funny,
from?
and how you captured the pigeon.
Yeah.
It's always something that I find myself in uncertain waters when I try to convey the pigeon, because the pigeon is extremely oral. So when you start writing it, it feels butchered. But you're able to manage it fluidly, and that is impressive.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we go to the next reading. Ajay.
Ajay.
I mean, just a quick anecdote. In primary school, there was this particular tool that I never was able to mention. I never knew whether it was an axe or it was a pickaxe. It was always spelled A-D-Z-E. And that was the word. I never pronounced it. How is it pronounced? Yes, and that is the title of this story. All right, so where are you reading from?
I'm reading from chapter 1. The abnormals. My page may be a little different from yours.
Okay.
Yeah. The abnormals escaped from a magical prison that holds them captive. And they call this prison the facility. So the main character and her friends have just, they are about to escape from the facility. From what Dr. Ansah told me the next day, I had had a blank look in my eyes. The anxious person that I was before the therapist moments ago was now very calm, like darkness, pitch black, unmoving. Selassie, are you okay? The Dr. Ansah asked. No response, no movement, only a petrifying calmness that frightened Dr. Ansah a lot. She shook me vigorously. Selassie, you are frightening me, the psychologist had said. Then suddenly I jolted back to life, still calm, but now speaking in a strange way. A tree has broken, I had said with a pained expression on my face, but still calm. What? A tree has broken, I repeated. Not just any tree, but the tree that protects us all from the dangers posed by everyone else. The darkness is coming. Then I closed my eyes and fell into a deep sleep. I woke up minutes later with Dr. Ansah, 2 guards, and Dr. Adamu, the medical officer, staring down at me. Again, the apprehension I had felt earlier in the morning returned, more vivid than before. The strange calmness flooded my person. It was like deja vu. Again, the apprehension I had felt earlier in the morning returned in all its vigor. I shut my eyes to reassure myself that nothing was going to happen this time around, and then I opened them again. Then the lights went out. It was followed by screams. Then the latter lining the walls in Dr. Ansah's office broke. Several cracks zigzagged along the anti-juju crystal. The spiritual essence that had held me prisoner for the past 20 years lost its power. The foundations of the facility shook violently. Susket! We all grabbed onto something for support. The lights in the office flickered on and off. The facility shook again, more violent than before. A nauseating smell of blood filled the atmosphere. Bullets tore through the door of the office. There were the sounds of footsteps rushing past the office, more screams, then everything went silent. Suddenly, some strange Ajay made their way into Dr. Ansah's office. They knew what they were doing. The latter disintegrated upon their entry. It was amazing how the anti-juju crystal sublimed into nothingness in the presence of the strange Ajay. They opened their palms towards us in the office and drained the life out of Dr. Adamu and the 2 guards, who had just run into the office for safety. The leader of the Ajay entered the office. She looked just like me. She was me, but not me. Dr. Ansah and I were holding on to each other in a corner in the office. Dr. Ansah screamed when the leader of the strange Ajay walked up to us. I was too scared to even scream and only stared blankly at the photocopy of myself as she grabbed Dr. Ansah by the neck, squeezed it, and lifted her off the ground. No, leave her alone. Please, she is my friend, I pleaded. Photocopy me looked down at me, smiled a mischievous smile, placed her other hand on the chest of Dr. Ansah, and drained the life out of her. With her back turned to me, I saw that she had a mark at the base of her neck. The mark had the shape of a capital Y, but the ends of this Y had the two ends of the fork bending towards each other. It was the same as my birthmark at the base of my neck. As the life drained out of the doctor, I felt a burst of energy infused into my body. It felt just like the way I felt with Kuku on my 18th birthday. The feeling was amazing. She dropped Dr. Anseh's lifeless body in front of me and stepped away from us. Don't be afraid. We are here because we want to free you. Your fight is our fight. Let's go, she ordered. She grabbed me by the arm and pulled me along. I was still too shocked to resist. There were bodies of guards lying everywhere in a pool of bullets from the guns the guards used. Lifeless. Bullet holes were all over the walls. They all lay dead like Dr. Anseh, drained of their life force. When we got to the canteen, all the other Ajay had been assembled there. Adobia ran and hugged my double ganga when she saw her. She believed she was me. The leader pushed her off. I'm not your friend. She is. She pointed to me. I was still shivering. The other Ajay looked at us with shock. Confusion was painted all over their faces. I was confused myself. I didn't understand what was going on. Did I have a twin I didn't know about? My look-alike and her Ajay soldiers closed their eyes and expelled a wave of energy in the direction of all of us that were gathered in the canteen.
Thank you very much, Kofi. Yes, Fui.
Kofi. Charlie, great reader. So I just wanted to say this. I think that I was struck by the beginning. I'm sure it was a vision. You started, I don't know, too late to tell. For it was a vision, right? The fact that you use a tree to symbolize a protective barrier. Other people would use maybe, I don't know what they'll use, but people wouldn't generally look at a tree and think of protection. But I thought that metaphor was if I didn't know anything about the book, already I'm going to buy a book copy. Mm-hmm. If I didn't know anything about the book, that metaphor alone would have made me grab a copy, because that's a thinking that I feel is very indicative of our culture. And you're an error and I'm an error. So I really, and I enjoyed how you portray the whole breaking out, the lack of fear on the part of what I'm guessing are prisoners, and the inability of the crystals to do anything. So it's kind of a commentary of how of religion. You understand? We buy all these talismans and stuff, and then we kneel and pray. But what is supernatural? When it happens, it happens. Mm-hmm. Your rosary will not ward away death, or it will not stop a car crash or something like that. So I thought that was really great commentary.
Thank you.
And that was a great reading, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Two quick questions. One, how long did it take you, and I mean all of you, to write your...
me, right?
No, your panelist.
Okay.
How long did it take you to write these books?
The marathon lasted for 6 months, so it took us 6 months to write the book. And it took us another 6 months to go through the various drafts and the rewrite process. So 6 months to write the story, and another 6 months to go over, rewrite, cut the parts we didn't want, and get it published.
So the next one is an observation. Your use of abruptness, the way you move from speaking about a tree, right? Mm-hmm. Abruptly closing your eyes and falling into deep sleep. That is really ominous. To just talk to someone, close your eyes and just fall into deep sleep. That is very interesting. One of the two Ajay that enters, disintegrating immediately on entry. That's also quite ominous and quite abrupt. Yeah. So I thought that's something that you used quite well to kind of carry the heaviness of what you were doing in the book. Thank you for writing this book.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. So I want to find out your style of writing and the genre you write in. can you give me, say, a writer or other books that we can compare to your book? Not necessarily from Ghana, because I found I'm reading it. I found the writing sort of not very close to what I'm usually used to. Yes. So I want to know if there are other writers or books which are similar that I can.
Okay. I wouldn't say there are books that are similar, but I can tell you my writing has been influenced by some writers. I studied English in the University of Ghana, and creative writing were one of my electives. And Prof. Anyetei and Dr. Mauli J were my lecturers. And if you read the book, you can find some handwritings of Prof. Anyetei in the book, as well as that of Dr. Mauli J. The way Prof. Anyetei tells stories, the way Dr. Mauli J does his descriptions, have influenced me a lot. And all that come together to make me the writer that I am. And books that look, that is similar to this, I can't really tell, but Anyetei Okrafo is a writer that I like reading a lot, and she also writes about the other, the unseen, and the other part of Africanness. So I would say I'm also influenced in a way by Anyetei Okrafo's writing.
Okay.
Thank you.
I want to know how we have heard several times how people demonized our tradition, the culture, the spirituality involved in the African tradition. How do you make it not as a caricature, as a scary thing, but make it more something that people can accept? I give example. Last year, we heard of Sarkodie doing a song, Brown Paper Bag, right? And he compared the African tradition to technology. And people were talking against it. Yeah. But how do you find similarity that you don't really make it as a caricature that, oh, Africa for the and how do you make it such a way that our spirituality is not demonized? Do you get it?
Yeah, I get your point. The Aje in this book, basically Aje is witchcraft, and the Aje are witches and wizards. In the book, they are not people that decided to become witches and wizards. These people are gifted per the story. They've been gifted their abilities by African gods. And I felt that witches and wizards, as we know it in Africa, have been demonized a lot when we don't actually know who a witch or wizard actually is and what goes into what they do. In writing this book, I set out to write a story that didn't set the Aje, in my opinion, in this book, are a minority, right? And because of their abilities, they were captured, imprisoned, tortured by the order of Aje. So I set out to write a story to shine a light on the problems or the things that the minority go through. And that influences my dedication to minority groups, especially those in Ghana, who have had to hide or deny their languages, cultures, and parts of their identities in order to survive and be accepted. So this is how come they are not demonized in the book. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hi. So I have a two-in-one question. The first one is, how influenced by your culture or tradition, how much of culture or tradition has seeped into the writing? And if a reader who is very familiar with the writing were to encounter, would it be fantasy to them or would it be realism to them? Like if somebody who's very familiar with the witchcraft, with the Ajay, would that be something that they are very familiar with, that it doesn't seem like fantasy? Or would, when they encounter the writing, it's been done in such a way that even to them it would be fantasy?
Okay. Yes, a lot of the Ewe culture found its way and influenced the story. The Ajay are they are spiritual creatures in our folklore that move as a firefly, and they can turn into a human being, and these people are considered to be witches and wizards. In firefly form, they can't be killed. But when they become human, you can kill them the same way as you can kill any human. So the story, I would say, is a blend of fantasy and magical realism. So there is realism, and then there is a bit of fantasy. I was careful not to be too fantastic in my narration and careful not to be too realistic in my narration. So I found the balance between the two, and that's how I describe the story. Yeah.
Last question.
Yeah, I really appreciated your question. Also because I think the point is also that, like, to people who deal with these things as their life, as their living, as their practice, as their world, like, they could take it as real. And so kind of in that vein, you spoke about your teachers who inspired you and influenced you, and I feel like it's also as much a book born out of the film industry. Like, I could so picture this as a Gollywood or Kumawood film, and I guess all of that is born out of oral traditions and oral storytelling. I guess that's more of an observation, but maybe you have insight into that as well.
Prof. Anyetei and Mauli J, when you submit a story or a poem to them, can look you directly in the face and tell you there is no poetry in your poem, or your story doesn't have any substance. And when you go back and then you reflect on what they have said, you actually realize that, maybe you've put a group of words together that makes, in verses, that makes your piece look like poetry, but indeed there is no poetry in that.
No melody,
yes.
Doesn't sing.
So in that vein, they've influenced me so much in the way they tell their stories. And Prof. Anyetei, when he's telling you a story, it's actually like you are in a cinema watching the film. Okay. So yes, maybe that has had a great influence in why maybe some parts of the story, or maybe all the parts, may look like a film.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you all for participating in this Writers Marathon. Thank you. So that's it.
Yeah. Right, so...
all right, so there are copies of the books that were read on the book stands, and so please pass by and pick yours. All right.
Thank you very much.